The crystalline halls of the Galactic Council's primary station hummed with the perpetual energy of 1,000 civilizations conducting their daily business. Ambassador Elsa Martinez stood before the massive viewing port, her reflection ghost-like against the backdrop of swirling nebulae and distant star systems. She had been humanity's representative for 3 standard years now, ever since Earth had been granted provisional membership in the Council, a status that came with more restrictions than privileges. "They're watching us again," she murmured to herself, nodding the cluster of Valorian diplomats whose multifaceted eyes tracked her movements from across the atrium. Verk appeared beside her, his footsteps silent despite his considerable frame. The former Special Forces operator had transitioned into diplomatic security with the same efficiency he'd brought to every other mission in his career. His dark eyes scanned the crowd with practiced ease. "Let them watch," Verk said quietly. "We've done nothing wrong." "Nothing wrong except exist," Elsa replied, her jaw tightening. "The Council's been debating the human question for months now. I've read the transcripts, Verk. They're terrified of us." It was an absurd notion on its surface. Humanity had emerged onto the galactic stage barely a decade ago, technologically inferior to even the youngest Council species. The Valorians had mastered faster-than-light travel 3,000 years before humans discovered fire. The crystalline Cathari had built quantum computers while humanity was still painting on cave walls. By every measurable metric, humans should have been the ones trembling. Yet the galaxy trembled instead. Verk's communicator chirped. He glanced at the holographic display and his expression hardened. "It's starting. Emergency Council Session. Topic: Resolution 7749. Elsa's blood ran cold. Resolution 7749, the Predator Suppression Protocol. She'd heard whispers about it in the Council's shadowy corridors, a proposed framework for managing aggressive species characteristics that was clearly aimed at humanity alone. The Council chamber was an architectural marvel, a vast spherical space where representatives from 847 species floated in individual gravity-stabilized pods. Elsa and Verk took their assigned position, notably placed in the outer rim, far from the Council's central authority clusters. Supreme Arbiter Qleth, a being of pure energy contained within a magnetic field lattice, began the session. Their voice resonated through every translator simultaneously, a choir of unified meaning. "We convene to address a matter of galactic security," Qleth announced. "Humanity's integration has revealed biological imperatives that threaten the fundamental peace we have maintained for 11,000 years." Elsa activated her microphone. "Supreme Arbiter, humanity requests the right to respond to these charges." "Denied," came the immediate reply. "This is a preliminary hearing. You will observe." Verk's hand moved subtly to his side, a soldier's instinct checking for weapons that weren't there. Elsa placed a calming hand on his arm, though her own heart hammered against her ribs. A holographic display materialized at the chamber's center, showing data streams and biological analytics. The presenter was Ambassador Threx of the Valorian Cooperative, his mandibles clicking with barely suppressed agitation. "The evidence is irrefutable," Threx began. "Humanity evolved as an apex predator. Their eyes face forward, binocular vision designed for tracking prey. Their teeth include canines meant for tearing flesh. Their persistent hunting methodology involves literally chasing prey until it collapses from exhaustion. Every aspect of their biology screams predator." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Elsa felt hundreds of eyes and sensors and electromagnetic awareness fields focused on her and Verk. "Furthermore," Threx continued, "human psychology demonstrates alarming aggression patterns. Their history is saturated with warfare, conquest, and competition. Even their entertainment glorifies violence and conflict. They are fundamentally incompatible with civilized galactic society." The hologram shifted to show scenes from human history. Battles, revolutions, mushroom clouds blooming over cities. Elsa winced. Presented without context, humanity's past looked monstrous. The predator suppression protocol, Threx declared, would require mandatory genetic modification of all humans, dampening their aggressive impulses and making them suitable for integration. The alternative is quarantine, permanent isolation of the Sol system. The chamber erupted in debate. Species who had never experienced predation in their evolutionary history voiced support. Others, more pragmatic, questioned the ethics of forced genetic modification. Verk leaned close to Elsa. "They're serious about this. We need to respond." "I know," Elsa whispered back, "but how do we defend what we are?" The answer came from an unexpected source. "I must object to this resolution." The voice cut through the chaos like a blade. All attention shifted to Ambassador Schechter of the Kryn Dominion. The Kryn were one of the Council's oldest and most respected species, their four-armed forms representing stability and wisdom. "The Council recognizes Ambassador Schechter," Kuleth announced. Schechter's pod descended to a more prominent position. "This resolution is not merely unethical, it is dangerous. It demonstrates a catastrophic misunderstanding of predator species and their role in galactic ecosystems." Threx's mandibles clacked aggressively. "The Kryn themselves are herbivorous. You cannot possibly understand." "I understand perfectly," Schechter interrupted, "which is why the Kryn have maintained a standing defense contract with humanity for the past 8 months. Shocked silence fell over the chamber. Elsa's eyes widened. This was news to her as well. Schechter continued, 3 months ago, the pirate coalition known as the Red Scourge attacked a Kryn colony world in the Theta sector. They had been raiding our outer settlements for years, always evading our peacekeeping forces. The Kryn, like most council species, evolved without predators. We are excellent builders, philosophers, and scientists. We are not warriors." The hologram changed, now showing a barren moon pockmarked with pirate fortifications. "We hired a human military consultant, one individual. His name was Marcus Chen." Verk straightened slightly. Elsa recognized the name. Chen had been Verk's commanding officer years ago. "Consultant Chen analyzed the situation for 72 hours, Schechter said. Then he requested a single squad of human soldiers and an outdated transport vessel. Within 6 standard days, the Red Scourge was completely eliminated. 200 pirates who had terrorized our sector for a decade, neutralized by 8 humans." The chamber buzzed with renewed agitation. "How?" someone demanded. "They thought like predators," Schechter explained. "They didn't chase the pirates, they predicted where the pirates would go and waited. They didn't attack with overwhelming force. They struck psychological targets that made the pirates panic and make mistakes. They used the pirates' own aggression against them. In the final engagement, the humans didn't even fire a shot. They simply convinced the pirates that they were already surrounded and outmatched." Schechter's 4 arms gestured emphatically. "This is what you fail to understand about predator species. Yes, humans are capable of violence, but that capability comes with strategic thinking, pattern recognition, and the ability to understand conflict at a fundamental level that prey species simply cannot match." Elsa found her voice. "Supreme Arbiter, permission to speak." A long pause, then, "Granted, be brief, Ambassador Martinez." Elsa stood, her pod rising slightly. "The Council has maintained peace for 11,000 years. That is a remarkable achievement, but peace maintained by species who have never known conflict is fragile. You've created a galaxy without predators, without competition, without the drive that sharpens civilizations." She pulled up her own data display. "Since humanity joined the Council, piracy incidents in sectors where we've been deployed have dropped by 73%. Not because we're violent, because we understand violence. We know how predators think because we are predators." Verk stood beside her. The galaxy is bigger than the Council's controlled space. Out in the frontier, there are threats you've never had to face because you've isolated yourselves. The Kryn learned this the hard way. How many other species will suffer before the Council acknowledges that predators serve a purpose? Threx tried to interrupt, but Schechter raised a hand. I have submitted a formal motion to replace Resolution 7749 with an alternative, the integration of strategic defense specialization. Humanity would be recognized as the Council's primary security consultants, their predator traits acknowledged as a resource rather than a threat. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Species divided along philosophical lines, those who valued absolute peace above all else, and those who recognized that true security required understanding conflict. Finally, Kuleth called for a vote. Resolution 7749 failed by a narrow margin. Schechter's alternative passed with 68% support. Hours later, Elsa and Verk stood again at the viewing port, watching transport vessels drift between the stars. We're still being watched, Verk observed. Always will be, Elsa replied. Fear doesn't disappear overnight, but maybe they'll learn that predators aren't monsters. We're survivors, protectors when we choose to be. Verk nodded slowly. The galaxy accidentally built a sanctuary. Perfect conditions, no threats, eternal peace. Then we showed up and reminded them that the universe isn't always peaceful. They think they awakened our predator instincts, Elsa said with a slight smile. They don't realize those instincts were always there. They just gave us a reason to use them for something other than ourselves. Her communicator chimed, the first of what would become many requests for human security consultants. Species who had spent millennia as prey suddenly understood the value of having a predator on their side. The galaxy would never be quite the same, and perhaps Elsa thought that was exactly what it needed. Humanity had arrived not as conquerors, but as the guardians the Council never knew it required. The predators had found their purpose, not in domination but in protection, not in violence but in the understanding that sometimes the only thing that could stop a predator was another predator who chose a different path. The accidental awakening had become an evolution, and the galaxy would be stronger for it. And